I remember the very first time I ever heard In Flames, sorry guys, was through Napster. Someone sent me Jotun, and that was the first thing I'd ever heard. And never before that had I ever heard melody incorporated into something so heavy, where there could be beautiful moments in the guitars and then such aggression in the vocals. From there, what I would do is I ordered all of their albums off like CD mail order sites, and I had to wait for them to show up. So I'd burn the CDs up, CDRs of it. When the CDs showed up, I threw away the CDRs and had the real thing. Through In Flames and At the Gates, I started seeing what bands also grew up at the same time as them, or what other bands started learning from their influence, or the bands that In Flames and At the Gates were into. And I just find this cornucopia of bands that kept streaming into other things. I think the fact that before I ever heard any of the Gothenburg bands, I'd always treated Trivium as like a traditional thrash metal band, maybe with some death metal influences in it, kind of being from Florida. So there wasn't really any melody going guitar wise. It was kind of thrashed out, old school Testament, old school Slayer style. And then vocally, it was like a monotone, just shouted riff. Not really screamed, but shouted. When I started seeing what was going on with these complex melodies, and I don't mean complex in like a classical music sense, but a complex way that it was so much more than anything I'd ever heard, played into itself with all these amazing guitar harmonies, the way that Maiden would treat it, but with an extra epicness to it due to the scales and the keys that maybe Swedish folk inspired into these bands. Like I said, have to ask the guitar players themselves what specific folk music drove them to make these melodies, but it just set something off in my brain. Then from that moment on, all I listened to was pretty much everything from Sweden.